running on the Spanish channel, and I think we have all of that technology working, but we will again run through all the logistics on the Spanish channel to make sure that anyone that wants to join can. And it looks like we're on YouTube, which is fantastic. And then as soon as we start recording, we'll go through our standard introductions. Awesome. Thank you both, and those of you behind the scenes. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you and good evening. You can hear or you can, oh good, Estella, you're good? Okay. Good evening to those of you that have just joined us. Thank you for joining our AB 617 meeting for South Central Fresno. We're so excited to see you all, especially I know many of you are gearing up for school and the back to school time frame, and it gets really busy this time of year, so it's even more impressive to have so many of you with us tonight. We have a great agenda for today, and we're excited to kind of keep moving and get started as close to on time and end as close to on time as we can. My name is Erica Manuel. I'm the head of a nonprofit organization called ILG, and I'm happy to lead the facilitation team for this AB 617 community. I'm here with my team members, Julia and Hannah, and they are available to help you with any technical problems you may have throughout the meeting, in addition to our friends in the interpretation line and our friends at the Air District. We are all here to help with any technical problems, any logistical problems, any language problems you might have throughout the meeting. We want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to participate and participate fully. And we already began with our Spanish language interpretation team, but I want to check back in with them again just to make sure that everything's working properly and to make sure that we broadcast instructions for listening on the Spanish line for those of people that might be looking on YouTube or just joining us today. So I will turn it over to our colleagues, Yesenia and Mari, to see if you can give us the download in Spanish on how to log into the Spanish language line.
It's Anna.
Anna today. Hello, Anna.
Yeah, so buenas tardes. Gracias por asistir a la junta de hoy. Nada más queremos recordarle que se pueden cambiar, si no se han cambiado a la línea de interpretación, está hacia abajo en el logotipo de interpretación, abajo de la ventanilla de Zoom, y pueden ahí seleccionar el español y mudar el inglés para que nomás puedan oír el español. Otra cosa, si por cualquier problema tienen problemas con la aplicación de Zoom, pueden llamar al teléfono gratuito que es el 844-867-6169 y el código de acceso es el 5083396 y el número de símbolo. ¿Tienen alguna pregunta?
No, todo está bien.
Muchas gracias. It looks like they're good and they're on the interpreting channel. I'm going to check the phone line real quick. Hold on. But you can go ahead. I'll let you know if there's someone on the phone.
Thank you, Anna. All right. So once again, we just want to welcome all of you that have just joined us. Thank you for joining us tonight, taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us. We are here, as always, to continue to make progress on improving the air quality in South Central Fresno. I'll be the facilitator for your meeting today. We are a neutral party here to make sure that your voices are heard, that our tone and our discussions are respectful, and that we accomplish some of the key objectives from our agenda. We will try to stay on schedule and make sure that our meeting starts on time, ends on time as much as possible, and that everyone has an opportunity to weigh in on important topics that the CSC has decided are really important for making progress on your community emissions reduction plan. So we've had a lot of Zoom meetings, so we're going to go through this very quickly for the sake of time, since I see a lot of familiar names on today's Zoom screen. For those of you that are on the Zoom, please update your screen name. You know this drill. Please add CSC and your first and last name if you're a CSC member. But if you're a resident, please use that R. It really does help us when we process your stipends. Any other participants, please use your first name, your last name, and your affiliation so that we can see who you are on the line. And if you're not attached to anybody specifically as a CSC member, feel free to put that P in your name for the general public. And we appreciate everyone making those adjustments. If you need any help making the screen name change, anyone on the tech team can help. Hannah and Julia are available to do renaming, as well as others on the Air District team. And you can see who's available by host, and co-host is their name. In addition to making sure your screen name is accurate, please stay on mute when you are not talking to minimize that background noise. Please raise that Zoom hand. It used to be blue, but now it's whatever color you want it to be. Raise that Zoom hand to speak when we have opportunities for dialogue so we can make sure that everybody has a chance to be heard. And if you are a resident in the stipend program, you should stay in this meeting for 75% of the meeting to get credit for it. And that screen naming change really does help with tracking your attendance and making sure that you get that stipend check once a month. So as you know, these CSC meetings are always open to the public, and we are grateful to members of the public. We always have fantastic members online and on the Zoom every evening. So we want to make sure that you remember that you have a number of opportunities to weigh in on this meeting if you're a member of the public. If you're on our YouTube or Facebook channels, you may send an email to ab617@valleyair.org. You can post comments on the Facebook and YouTube channels, and we will address those comments in the public comment period, which is at the end of our meeting. As you saw, our meeting is being live streamed. It's being recorded. Those are formalities, and I think you all clicked on a button in the recent Zoom update to approve that. So we appreciate that. So in the interest of time, I just want to ask briefly if anybody needs to be renamed, any participants need some assistance with screen renaming, or if you're meeting in a group and you want to make sure everybody in your group is counted for stipend purposes. If we have anybody that needs that assistance, if you could raise your hand or unmute yourself, or if there's anybody on the phone line we can track, I'll ask Hannah. And Hannah, if you could let us know if there's anybody we need to ask for a naming assistance.
Yes, Erica, thank you. We do have one phone number. Four last digits are 9945. Four last digits are 9945. If you can unmute yourself by pressing *6 and let us know who you are.
Excellent. We will rename you if you have that phone number of 9946 is your last four.
9945.
45.
Yes, hello. It's Doug Carstens. Hello, everybody. And I'm just in the car, so can't be on the video, but hi.
No problem. Doug Carsten, great. Okay, perfect. We will make that name change. Thank you, Doug. All right, we'll go back to the slide, and we'll just finish up with our meeting agreements. These are just reminders, especially for those of you that are joining us for the first time or joining us on social media. And this even involves the public that comment on the meetings. If you put in any emails or comments through the social media channels, we do hope that you will be productive and help achieve the meeting goals, focusing on solutions with your comments and making sure that that dialogue is not only productive, but also civil and respectful. If you're on the Zoom, we are grateful when you allow everyone to participate. And these are all things you've seen and heard and honored before, so we absolutely appreciate that. We will stay on point and on time, and we will keep our comments brief and to the point to allow enough time that we get to that public comment at the end and that we get to everyone's comments throughout the meeting. And then, as always, we ask you that you attack the problem and never the person, to respectfully challenge ideas and outcomes, but never people. And that's just so that we can honor every person's humanity and every person's dignity. And we always try to seek common ground. I want to make sure we leave this up on the Spanish language slide as well, just the same thing translated, with the intention that we work together as a team as we have for so many months and continue to move forward productively on the SERP that you guys have worked on so hard for the last few months and years, I guess now, with all the progress that you've made. We'll leave this up for a couple more seconds before we move into our welcome. All right. Well, we do not have a community co-host this evening, so at this time, I would love to hear from Ryan from the Air District for any opening remarks about what the Air District team is doing or any other updates he wants this group to have.
Thanks, Erica. Good evening, everyone. Good to see all of you, and happy to have you here and continue to work on implementation of the Community Emissions Reduction Program for South Central Fresno. I have a good agenda driven by the steering committee's suggestions, and looking forward to the discussion once again. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you, Erica.
Thank you, Ryan. speaking of that agenda, we'll actually put it up on the screen for you now. It'll show you approximately the timeframes for today's meeting. And our goal is to have the meeting end today no later than 7:30. All right, so as you can see from this slide, we're spending a large portion of today's meeting discussing some of the impacts that we're all feeling from residential wood smoke, illegal trash burning, and wildfires. The air quality certainly for the past few weeks has been really impacted by smoke, so this is a really timely update. Then we're going to go into standing updates, where we're going to learn about all of the activity that's happening in our subcommittees, and we will end with a wrap-up and public comment. And as Ryan just mentioned, this agenda really reflects some important updates and gives us all a chance to really acknowledge the progress this group is making on a lot of the key priorities for your CSC. We want to give out a special shout out to those of you that have supported and engaged in the agenda planning process. As always, this agenda was developed in coordination with your colleagues on the CSC, so it does reflect your specific priorities as well. And we also have an opportunity at the very end of our meeting today to get additional feedback about what agenda topics you'd like to add for future discussion, for future meetings. And so we're excited to not only hear today's discussion, but hear from all of you about what you'd like to see moving forward. So we'll take this slide down and ask if there are any clarifying questions about our plan for today before we get started on the first agenda item. If you have any, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we will get going. Hi.
Hi. I just want to see if at the end you allow me to make an announcement about the AB 617 convening that is being planned for September.
Sure. Absolutely. There's time always for a committee CSC announcement. I actually built some in at the very end. So if you're good to wait till the end, absolutely. I'll make a note of it. Perfect. Okay, well, we're right on time with our next agenda item, and we are going to talk about measures to reduce impacts from residential wood smoke, illegal trash burning, and wildfires. And that update is coming from the Air District, and I think Jamie's going to kick us off for this one. So let's move it over to Jamie.
Yes, it is. I'm going to share my screen and go through a few slides. Most of these slides were sent out last week in Spanish to our Spanish speakers and put out in, I think, Lisa, you should have received some in a mailbox. However, we did have some slides that we added kind of at the 11th hour, just based on what occurred over the weekend with regard to wildfires. And I will also let you all know that if any of you were in attendance at the little webinar that CVAC did last week, I think some of them might be familiar to you, but we wanted to add a little more wildfire information. So I'm going to go through the slides and then really open it up for discussion. We definitely want to hear from the committee as to ideas that you all might have on some of the outreach, some of the implementation of some of the strategies that we have before us. First off, I'm going to go through the individual strategies, and we have what we call RB1 in their incentives to replace wood burning devices. And they're set up to really assist those community members who either have an existing open hearth fireplace, maybe they have an existing gas insert or excuse me, a existing wood insert that they want to replace because it's old. We have this program that will help them get a new device in their home. The incentive amount is $3,000 per device. In the SIRP right now, it is $1.5 million to replace 500 wood burning devices. And I will tell you, we have about 11 hearth retailers or shops in the Fresno area that will assist individuals with making this swap. And in all cases, they're what we call instant rebate retailers. And that means that if you go to those retailers, they won't actually have you pay that $3,000 up front and make you wait to get your check from the Air District. They actually work with the Air District, so they just take that $3,000 off of the top, so that in some cases what you might end up paying is, we've even heard cases of some people getting it really for no additional out-of-pocket cost. That's not That's not in every case, but it kind of depends on what you want in your home and kind of how it's done. I will tell you that we're close to having this program approved by Carb. It is one of those project plans that is with Carb, and we hope to have it approved here really quickly. We want to have this program up and running as soon as possible so that folks can get the new device, be it a gas device. The program also allows for some electric technology to be put in your home. It's a little bit more expensive and the out-of-pocket cost is a little bit higher, but the overall value and the impact to your utility bill can actually be much lower. So once I go through all the slides, one of the things that I would like to ask you all is how do we get the word out about this program so that folks understand? I'm going to ask you about that in a couple ways. So how you apply is that you go to valleyair.org, burn cleaner. You fill out a fairly easy form. We are working right now to make sure that it's really easy to get to the Spanish version of that form. When you go to valleyair.org/burn cleaner, you will have to take some photos of what's existing, a little photo on your phone, you know, that you can easily email us. And then once you get that voucher, you then work with one of the local retailers. And as I mentioned, all of the ones here in the Valley are really set up to do that instant rebate so that they can really make it easier for folks. There is some paperwork that you have to do after it's installed, just to make sure that, you know, the money, it's a big chunk of money. We've got to, of course, have paperwork to make sure that it's been done correctly. Another thing that I want to point out is that if you know of individuals, maybe they live in a fourplex or a duplex, maybe they're renters. We do have a way that renters, with the approval of their landlord, can also go through the program. So usually it's the type of thing where actually the landlord is quote unquote paying for it, but we can work with those who are renting to also get their device swapped out. The next one, RB3, is Enhanced Enforcement of Wood Burning Curtailments. You might remember that when we brought the compliance report, the enforcement report back earlier this year, we talked about the enhanced enforcement for wood burning. And really it's a commitment to make sure that we are in the AB 617 community any night that there's a curtailment in place, that we're looking for those violations, and we're really trying to minimize those individuals who are basically breaking the rules and burning when they shouldn't be. We will continue to do that. That's 4 hours of surveillance in the community when there is a declared curtailment. And we really try and, one, listen to any complaints that might be made by folks who live in that community. They often maybe see something that we don't. And then we go to those neighborhoods where we know there are older open hearth fireplace or older wood burning devices in those homes. RB4, you might remember this. This was one of the very first things that we did way back, goodness, like January, this is going back almost a year and a half ago. Back we were in person actually, and we worked with you all to put together a billboard about trash burning, trying to get folks to understand that you know, illegal trash burning really can be a big health hazard, and really work with folks to get them to understand that you know, burning materials in your backyard, be it in a burn barrel or a pile on the ground, really can have all sorts, in addition to particulate matter, can have all sorts of additional toxics in that smoke that's being put out into the air. So through this, we've mentioned this in a little workshop that our Friday Night Live. We've done some outdoor ads. This one I believe was Belmont and over kind of in that southeast area. I think it's on the tracker exactly where it is. And then postcard mailers to county residents in rural areas. So that postcard mailer is something that we'll be doing here in the next, hopefully within the next year. But again, if you're like, postcards don't work, we want to hear that. What might work? As very much a dynamic and living strategy here. Up next is RB5, Enhanced Enforcement to Reduce Illegal Burning of Residential Waste. And this is really doing targeted surveillance efforts in the South Central Fresno community at least once a quarter, and really trying to get folks to understand that burning trash can be extremely bad for health. So now I'm going to go to the new section that I apologize, our Spanish folks haven't seen it, but I'm going to go slow, and most of it is images. So I think folks will be able to kind of follow along. I'm sure all of you noticed on Friday and Saturday and a little bit on Sunday, and then going into this week, the wildfire smoke has come to the valley. And unfortunately, it's just the beginning of the wildfire season. This is just a chart that shows you the amount of wildfire acres being burned in California for the past several years. And you'll see that there's definitely a trend. Last year was the worst wildfire season on record. If you're looking at the number of acres burned, we set several records, biggest fire, some of the biggest smoke impacts. So we definitely are back in wildfire season. And as you probably noticed over the weekend, that smoke came into the valley from the wildfires burning in Northern California. The big one up there right now is one called the Dixie Fire. And as of this morning, it was the second largest fire in recorded history in California. So we definitely are in wildfire season. You can see this is just two photographs of last year. The big impacts last year were in September. So we're not even to peak wildfire season yet. You might recall that we had all the fires burning in the Sierra, the Creek fires, the one that folks talk about a lot. And it basically brought tons of smoke into the valley, and that smoke just got trapped, had nowhere to go. And those fires kept bringing smoke into the valley until the weather cooperated. And in October, about a month later, we were able to see a little bit of a cleanup. Fortunately, we haven't had quite such a negative situation this year, but as I mentioned before, we're just at the beginning of the real wildfire season. Another thing that we've been looking at a lot is folks ask, well, why are the fires so bad? And there's really a variety of factors. One is that we haven't done a very good job of managing our wildlands. I joke that while Smokey Bear was right, we should not light forest fires. Those of us who have paid attention to this for a really long time know that wildfires actually are part of the natural ecological systems that work up in the forests, and letting fires burn actually does have some value to the overall health of the forest. So on the one hand, we haven't really let fires burn very much over the last basically about 50 years, since about the 70s. And you couple that with the fact that our climate is changing, and we're seeing hotter days. We're seeing drier droughts. So we've had droughts in the past, but the droughts are getting drier. And you can see from this chart that the rainfall is again at record low levels. So this is looking basically at this past quote unquote rainy season. We get most of the rain in the valley between October and April. And if you look at this last rainy season, for almost every county, this includes Fresno County, we're in one of the worst 10 seasons for rain in the valley. And of course, that just means that when we do have a wildfire, it's going to burn hotter. It's going to burn with faster. It's going to move more quickly. One of the things that they're dealing with up in Northern California is winds. So when wind picks up, the embers from the fire can travel over a mile and light something else on fire. So it really makes for a perfect storm of conditions that make all of us really concerned about where the rest of this wildfire season might go. And I say season, even though in a lot of times we're now seeing wildfires even into November, December, and starting again, maybe even burning into the new year and then starting up again, you know, as early as May. So it's becoming more and more just that wildfires are something we're going to see all the time. I mentioned the drought conditions. We're seeing exceptional drought conditions. The fuel buildup, the summer temperature, we're on track to have some really dangerous situations when it comes to wildfires. So it's what does that mean? What do we need to be doing to make sure that we're as prepared as we can be for wildfires? And our priority is really to make sure that the public has access to accurate and timely health protective information so that they can make decisions about what they should do when wildfire smoke is coming to the valley and producing poor air. We have a partnership with our local public health officers and directors. We've met with them a couple of times. I also want to do a quick shout out. I really appreciate, and I'm going to call on her to do maybe like a 3-minute synopsis of the work that they're doing at CCEJN, specifically with farm workers. And I mean, if you can just maybe be prepared in a minute to just talk a little bit about that. I feel like there's a great network, like I mentioned, CVAC, some of the other nonprofits up and down the valley are really taking this issue on and are really doing some great work to really make sure that we're prepared. There's also some activity going on at the state level, and I'm going to put our Carb folks on the spot as well, if they can. If anyone can say a minute or two about the Carb's unveiling or developing of a grant program to set up clean air centers. I should have mentioned that before, so I'm not certain if they have anyone that can talk to it, but I'll throw it to Naimeen and to Carb after I'm done. We do a lot of press releases. You all should have gotten a press release last Friday. We've been trying to share with you our bilingual press releases so that you can send them out to your groups. We're sending them out to Media Valley-wide and making sure that we're communicating as much as possible that wildfire smoke might be coming into the area. We also use social media, and I know a lot of you do as well. So anytime you can retweet us or share our messaging. We're primarily on Facebook and Twitter and Nextdoor. We also do some posting on Instagram, but that's really become a great way to get to people that maybe aren't sitting down to the evening news or picking up the morning paper or going online and checking the morning newspaper. So this next one, it has a lot going on, but I'll drop all of these links in the chat here in a minute. One of the things that we want people to understand is that every year, there's more and more information online to help you make decisions about what air quality is doing at any given moment. We have our app. We talk a lot about it. It's Valley Air. It's both on Android and iPhone. In the first 2 images you see on the left, that's our app. But it's not the only resource out there. And some of them may suit you better. So we want folks to be aware of all the resources and know that some of them are going to make a lot more sense for them and their family. The next one is one from the EPA. It's called Air Now. The one after that, the 4th one, is actually probably the one that if I was going to pick one for wildfire smoke, this would be the one. And it's the Air Now Fire and Smoke Map. So it is going to give you not only the permanent monitor information, but it's going to give you some information from purple air monitors, which are those personal air sensors that folks can buy and put outside their home. It's going to give you information from temporary monitors. We work with land managers, and if there's a wildfire burning, you'll see temporary monitors put up in our forests to track what air quality is doing. The next one is Purple Air. That will give you a snapshot of all of these personal air sensors, and that really can be good if you want to know maybe what's happening right next to you. There might be a purple air right next to you. And then the last one is the best one for Spanish language, and hats off to some of our partners. I know Central California Asthma Collaborative, CCEJN, I think CVAG may have been involved perhaps, but a lot of partners came together and put up what's called sjvair.com. What's great about that one is that you can toggle between English and Spanish. So we are working on having our app in Spanish, but if you want to go today, sjvair.com is the place to go. So we also have a wildfire page. I'm not going to read all of this information. You can go look at it if you want, but I just want to point out our wildfire page. It's valleyair.org/wildfires. And what's great about it is that it links to a whole bunch of additional information. And there is a lot out there. The California Air Resources Board puts out a lot of information. EPA has quite a bit of information. The Department of Public Health has information about masks and how to properly wear masks. Cal OSHA has some requirements with regard to folks who are working out in the air when air quality is poor. So we link you to a whole variety of different options. And we also will give you the most recent information on the fires that are affecting air quality. And this website, you can toggle between English and Spanish. So it is a Google Translate, so no guarantees that the translation is perfect, but it should give you enough to allow you to kind of see what fires you need to be aware of. And right now we have like 6 fires that are impacting us. I just cut off part of the page. I really want everyone to know and spread this information far and wide. What do you do when air quality is poor? Best thing, if you can do it, is to keep your windows and doors closed. Run your HVAC system if you have one. Change your air filters. I changed all my air filters on Saturday morning. I stocked up and I was ready to go, so I changed my air filters. I made sure to not, I like candles in my home. I made sure I didn't light any candles. I'm not a smoker, but don't smoke. Put off using the vacuum cleaner, put off dusting, put off those activities that will add to the PM matter, or the pollution that's in the air. Put off those activities until air quality is a little bit better. If you have to be outside, avoid strenuous activities, stay hydrated, talk to your doctor if you have health concerns that need to be monitored. The little graphic here, if you don't have an HVAC system, or if you don't have a portable air filter in your home, and they are still out there. I know I just saw one at Costco. If you have the budget and can afford one at Costco, they do have the ones out in the world that you can purchase, but you can also make one. It's a DIY version of an air filter. It's basically a box fan and then a square filter that you tape to the back, and then you turn that on, and that will help filter the air in a room. The other thing, if you're going to use masks, we really want you to use an N as in Nancy 95 mask. But know that you need to be wearing it properly. It needs to be sized to fit your face. If won't work on a child, may not work on folks with facial hair, and you need to make sure that you're doing everything possible to keep it as snug as possible against your face. These little masks that we're all wearing, again, due to COVID, they're not going to keep the smoke out. But if this is the only thing you have and you have to go outside, it might be a little bit better than nothing, but it's nowhere close to the protection that you're going to get from an N95 mask. And then once the smoke has dissipated, air out your home a little bit and do all that cleaning that you put off. Oh, one other thing is, and that we and Carb are working on trying to couple the cooling centers with clean air centers. So that's kind of a new initiative coming from the state in giving folks an opportunity to be able to go out in the world and escape from the smoke if they can't do that in their home. That's something that's coming. What I tell folks right now, if you can't go out into the, if you can't escape the air quality at home, maybe try going to a shopping center or if the library's open or some other public place, if you can, where maybe you can escape the smoke for a little bit, but that is on our radar to try and open up these clean air centers. Then we are working on it. This is my last slide, and then I'll come to questions. We're working on an infographic. We've got it in English and Spanish right now. We're actively working on a few other languages, but I'm going to turn it over right now, and I'm going to let Naomi talk to us a little bit about what she's doing. I'm going to let Carb just mention a little bit what they're doing, and then we'll go to all the questions that we have, because I know you all probably have lots of good questions, but any way you can help us get the word out, we would love to hear that. And I mean, I apologize for putting you on the spot, but you're usually pretty good at winging it.
Sure, no problem. But Lisa, go ahead to ask your question and I'll continue.
Well, can you guys hear me fairly well?
Yes.
Okay. When you were talking about face masks, is there any right now among the homeless, they don't have adequate face masks for when the smoke comes in? Is there any way that the Air District can get N95s out to the homeless advocacy groups to start handing them out? Because I know there's a lot of asthmatics among the homeless population. Second, with the cloth masks, you know, I've made a couple of hundred cloth masks to donate to different groups and stuff through my whole anti-sewing squad. And what I also do with my mask is I have a sleeve that I put in a PM 2.5 filter in. And that's something that you also might want to get out there as far as that's concerned, because they're easy to find, super cheap on Groupon, you know.
Yeah, those are great ideas. And it was actually we were all N95s, nothing but N95s. And one of our board members actually mentioned that definitely go for the N95s. You should be wearing N95s. There's no debate about that, especially if you're working outside for extended periods of time. But if you cannot get an N95, I think, Lisa, what you were saying about a mask, especially a mask with added protection, is better than nothing. So that's definitely something, and we can look. I know there's lots of organizations that are doing work with regard to homeless, and you know, the mayor has a big initiative, so we can touch base with them as well and see if they have any plans or if there's any way we can assist them.
Yeah.
Actually, there's not, because they just did a giveaway of items. The DA was out, Smith Camp was out yesterday handing out hygiene items, and in the bag, there was nothing regarding any sort of smoke. Because I know when I've donated to a homeless advocate, I made sure that all the masks that I handed out also had the PM 2.5 filters in them, just to make sure, you know.
I can help. So just to describe what CCJN is doing, CCJN, CBAC, and the Asthma Collaborative are three of the organizations that have been funded by the San Joaquin Valley Health Fund to do intensive education around exposure to wildfires. Especially, we are all focusing on subpopulations. Obviously, as their name said, the Asthma Collaborative is focusing on in adults and children with asthma and how they can be protected, especially improving indoor air quality. One of the things that they are doing, and we're going to be helping as well, is create these videos of how to do it yourself air filtration units, that if you cannot afford the more expensive ones, so you have that at home. The Central Valley Air Quality Coalition is doing webinars. We just had one last week, and Jamie participated. And they are also just creating infographics and materials that are being distributed. And CCJ, what we're doing is we're focusing on farm workers. Why? Because as Jamie said, they are not out for a couple of hours. They are out for
no
8,
están
10
solamente
hours
por
a
un
day.
par de horas, sino están muchas horas
And definitely that increases the risk to this air pollution. So we're doing a couple of things, not only education, but Lisa, this is a point that I was going to. We're also distributing N95 masks to them. And I am happy to get some, if you connect me with organizations that work with homeless, to provide some with this to this population. we're making sure that they know how to use a mask and when the regulation that protects them from exposure to air quality when the index goes above 150. And the other thing that we're doing is really trying to help people sign up to alerts. And that's something that is still in my to-do list, working with the Air District to ensure that there is an increased capacity to reach the farm workers. And I want to put in the chat an announcement of a program that was launched in Ventura just early this week. And basically it's giving alert systems to farm workers when air quality is hazardous. So I encourage the Air District and all of us to think about how we can replicate that in Fresno County and the other counties of the Central Valley. I think that a lot of us that have good working relations with farm workers are eager and happy to start help enroll these farm workers into these text alerts. Because one of the things that we did, we conducted 307 surveys among farm workers in the months between May and July in 5 counties, Kern, Fresno, Tulare, Madera, and Kings. And most people do not know where to go and access information about air quality, and their preferred option will be to receive a text message. They are not familiar with apps, they're not familiar with navigating the internet, so certainly text alerts will be the sweet point to hit, and I'll leave it there.
Thank you so much, Naimi, for jumping in. I did see that Brian just put a link in the chat to the clean air centers. I know that those are still being discussed, developed. They're just in the initial stages. So I don't know if anyone can really speak to that, but it's my understanding that it's a grant program that Carb will have that will disperse money to set up these clean air centers. And again, the idea, at least I know in the hotter parts of the state, are to maybe overlap them with those cooling centers. And these would be, for example, maybe a school room, maybe a cafeteria at a school or a library that has enhanced air filtration systems that's fairly well sealed, and so that folks can go there and relax. I see Brian has raised his hand. I'm going to let him weigh in if he has any more information.
Oh, sure. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot, Jamie. I see Ed and Bill want to talk. So just real quickly, there's about 5 million, in grants that our research division is working on administering that grant program. So on that link, there's a way to click on and learn about the grant process and how to fill out the application. And if anyone has more questions, feel free to email me. I put my email in the chat and I can connect you with the staff that are leading that, or put your email and I'll email you. However you want to do it, feel free to get in touch with me to learn more about the clean air centers.
Great. I don't know who was first. Erica, do you know who's first?
So Ed was up. Yeah, Ed has had his hand up first, and then I saw that Bill jumped in as well. So Ed and then Bill.
I just wanted, there's some information that's important to know. And on the KN95s are not N95s. They're, some of them meet the requirements for N95. They're basically air masks that come out of China. That doesn't mean that they're bad, but there's some of them that are not certified. You need to know that. I will tell you that the mask situation, at least as of this week, is way better than it was before. We have several facilities up in Northern California in the wildfire area. OSHA requires that we provide masks for those people that are working outside, just as the farm laborers. And I was able to buy 3M brand American-made N95s for $1.87 each, which is a pretty good deal when we were paying $5 a piece for them last year. There is a range, and I got the low end of that, but they are out there. Amazon has them. You can get them in large quantities if you need them. So thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Ed. Bill, thank you for being patient. You've got your hand up. You are still on mute, Bill. We can't hear you yet.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. One is there any funds available? Maybe Carb might have it with all these wildfires that we keep having, maybe through penalties or whatever, that we could get some money to provide air filtration for the people that can't afford it in our area, you know, in the 617 area. That's one question. Another question is, I haven't seen the how complicated these box homemade version of the filters are, but is it possible that we could have, you know, funds somebody to make these up for the people, where you could just provide the DIY versions to people that can't afford to buy the filtration? You know, we focus a lot on the filtration for the schools and the public places, but like last year, the children weren't in the schools that much. They're more or less at home. So if there was a way to focus more on the households and the individuals that perhaps can't afford it, maybe somebody has contacts to get discounts, you know, if they use a voucher or a coupon or something, or perhaps, you know, a voucher program of some sort for people that are of a certain, I'm fortunate enough I could afford to buy one, but I'm sure a lot of people that can't afford to buy these portable filters for their homes. So if there was a way to help them out to where they could purchase these, or if we could provide them somehow, or at least, you know, maybe we could get somebody to put together these homemade ones, because maybe they can't afford to go out, or they don't have the expertise to build these, you know, homemade filtration units. But I was just curious if there was a way that we could help more of the individuals in the community inside their homes. And, you know, it's nice to have these centers, but, you know, if you have a whole family at home that is focusing on, you know, Zoom with their kids, or, you know, just, it's not practical for everyone to take their whole family somewhere. Whereas if there was some means to provide, and I think Namin was focusing on that to a certain degree, but if there's a way to come up with a means to help the individual households, you know, with a filtration. And these forest fires are ongoing, and I don't understand, you know, why you know, we have so much supposedly surplus money in the California budget that, you know, we're not doing more to prevent them through better forest management, or even logging, you know. But this is, as Jamie so rightly mentioned in her thing, is, except she didn't mention the logging part, but what she said is absolutely true, and it's only going to get worse if we, you know, if we don't do something to prevent this terrible accumulation of the fuel and you know, with the water shortage and the amount of people we have. You know, we've extended the population in California, you know, I don't know how many million people, but the resources are, you know, limited, you know, so it's a complicated problem. But I was just curious if somebody had any ideas how we could maybe better help some of the local families in this 617 area.
Thanks for that, Bill. And I'll see if there's an Air District response to that. And if there's not an immediate one, if we can drop it in the chat. I'm looking at Jamie, but I'm not sure if there's a response that you've got immediately.
I'll take it, Anna.
Oh, Brian, thank you.
And I may kick it over to Brian. I know there are what are called supplemental environmental projects that Carb does. I'm not sure if home air filtration is one of those ones that's eligible or has been done before, Brian.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm not familiar with a current one that's on the SEP list. I can check for residential.
But I think that may be something that would qualify for that potentially.
I'm not familiar with the exact restrictions of a SEP, but I think if it was submitted, yeah, then our enforcement team would look at it, and I can't see any reason why it would not be considered. Yeah, but I'm not super familiar with the regulations on that, but I can check that out for sure.
Yeah, we can definitely talk to Carb and bring back an update to the CSC members.
Thank you for that, Ryan. I want to acknowledge hands from Kevin, Lisa, and I just lost my other person. They unhanded themselves. One of the things I want to do though, before I go to Kevin, I just want to make sure that since there were a couple things from the interpretation line, I want to triple check and make sure that our Spanish language speakers didn't have any comments or questions on this topic. And then I'm going to come straight to Kevin and then Lisa.
I have some solutions for this that people probably want to know that might obviate their questions. So
let's do that, and I'll queue up the Spanish language line to ask if there's any questions, and then we'll come right back to them after Kevin.
So CCAC is funded at this point to put out about 400 of these fans with filters. We're focusing on homes and households where people have asthma, so that we can, and we have built our own system essentially with some clips that we designed to hold the filters to them. We've got a number of other, we already had one foundation reach out to us and offer us more funding to do more of these. These are definitely SEP eligible, by the way. I can answer that question for you. We've probably gotten more SEP funding than just about anybody in the Valley as far as unique individual SEP projects, and held the first webinars for community-based organizations to learn how to submit SEPs. And I can tell you these projects would qualify, but SEPs are not always the best way to do this unless the Air District wants to do a targeted SEP based on a violator, because SEPs rely on somebody actually breaking the law, if you will, and violating one of the air quality regulations or being sued for it, as is happening in a couple of communities. And then the violator in that case gets to choose whether or not they want to use this as a use of their fine. And for Carb, it's 50% of the fine would go to this, and the other 50% would go to Carb to pay for whatever they're using the money for to reduce emissions. So it's important to know that while SEPs are cool, a focused project from the Air District through 617 funding would be a better way to approach this, as far as throwing a blanket, if you will, over the disadvantaged community residents in the 617 areas. But for those who are interested, who need a fan, who know families that have kids or adults with asthma or respiratory problems, please reach out to us. We also are managing the SJV Air website, but we know that health plans are very interested in funding this as well. They've been talking to us about it, and they see the benefit for their members, especially the Medi-Cal plans. So there are a number of things in the air, but the fans that we have, we already have in storage, and we're going to be putting them out in starting the next couple of weeks. So please send me people who need fans, and we're happy to make that happen for you until we run out of them. Sound fair?
Thank you, Kevin.
That sounds awesome, Kevin. More than fair.
Thank you. All right, I just want to check in with the Spanish language line at this time, and then we'll go straight to Lisa. I do see a couple of notes in here from the Spanish interpretation line. So I'll jump to, I think, Eric. Is there anyone that has questions or comments on this topic?
We don't hear any on the phone line, and there doesn't seem to be any here on Zoom.
Nope, Anna? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Anna. All right, Lisa, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I had a couple of comments, Ashley. When you're talking about the cooling centers and air quality centers that are going to be coming up, you also, go to lunch with a homeless advocate and learn so much. One of the things that needs to be covered in these centers, you need to also consider their stuff, and you need to provide an air
Lisa, you are breaking up a bit. I don't know if you can hear us, but we
For
can.
them to leave their stuff. So to
Lisa, you
How about
broke
now?
up for a bit. Yes, I think now, but you might have to go back a bit, about 30 seconds.
Okay, when the homeless come into cooling centers, there are issues with their belongings. So as you design these places for people to come, understand that you're gonna have to provide some space for the homeless and their belongings and their pets, because they're not gonna leave their pets outside in the weather, because you know their pets are. Will these centers be providing things like some snacks and water, so people don't have to go out? And at what temperature or air quality will these centers be triggered? That's the first thing. The second thing I want to talk about is I love the whole idea of creating an app or somewhere that people could go through, like if you need a means test online, to get the coupon, to show at Home Depot, to show at a local hardware stores, to get your filters. That would be fabulous. And it's also a way of data mining information. So you could actually do targeted marketing and information drops to them in the future. That's all.
So it looks like two questions, one about the level of the air quality or the temperature for those cooling centers, and the second is a recommendation for potentially capturing data from the people that might be eligible for those rebates or those instant rebates, and you could use that to do follow-up marketing and make sure you understand some of the demographics for those people that might take advantage. So that, I think, one goes to Jamie for sure, the second one. And then I don't know who would answer the first one about the cooling centers and the temperature and the air quality requirements for those to be activated.
I don't know that we know the answer to the first one yet. I don't know that that's been fully decided. And the second one, yeah, we can definitely look into that, having some type of easy way for folks to be able to get plugged into the filter systems.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamie. And thank you, Lisa. And thanks to everybody putting information in the chat. Some of you asked for Kevin's contact information. That is noted in there at least once. I know Nyameen listed it. The Asthma Collaborative phone number is listed there from Nyameen. That's in Spanish. And then Kevin, if you want to add any details in English, please do. Certainly, we want to make sure that those that want to assign resources to people that might be suffering from asthma, that they can reach out to you. And certainly, I think the Air District can also be a conduit for that communication to Kevin and his group as well. Brian Moore's got information in the chat as well about all the different links. And then Jamie dropped in a number of air quality links related to the Valley Air app, the Air Now app, the EPA app, that slide of 4 or 5 images. There's a whole list for the links to those specific resources for all of you there. And then I wanted to confirm that we got everything we needed from the Spanish language team. And there is a mention from Anna as it relates to the kind of makeshift do-it-yourself fans and air quality boxes. It looks like there's a publication from the Carb blog that describes the experiences of people in Sacramento that have done that and links to do it yourself. So certainly some resources for the entire group to consider as we think about this really important issue right now. Before we move off of, thank you. Before we move off of this topic, any last questions about this really important and really timely discussion? Seeing none, I want to say thank you for all of those insights. And as I could, as I heard you all have action items related to some of these topics, I have written those down. We'll do a check on that at the end of this meeting to make sure we didn't miss any. But hopefully that reflects some of the requests related to how to continue to follow up in these areas and make sure that some of the action items tied to this are addressed too. So our next item is the standing updates, and we're going to actually have a couple. Oh, someone tried to speak.
Excuse me. Yeah, Erica, just really quick, something I want to mention because it's really important.
It might be super important.
just do some research. It's about N95 masks. We got about 12,000 masks for 83 cents a piece, shipped in worse than what you're paying, Ed. So email me later.
Sounds like she's got a potential discount idea for you related to the price of those masks, Ed. I think that's what I was getting out of what
Yeah,
you
no,
said.
I got that. I will also say that through the California Trucking Association, the Office of Emergency Services just offered like 12,000 masks to trucking companies for those drivers that are in in severely impacted areas, and they're giving those away. So, for what that's worth.
That's fantastic. Thank you both. Okay, so we are moving into the standing updates, and we've got a couple updates actually today. Tonight, we're slated to check on Carb activities, school filtration, air filtration activities, the community air monitoring, and then our new land use subcommittee. So we're actually going to go in order, and we'll start with Carb. And I think Brian Moore is going to begin that Carb update this evening. Brian, are you ready for the Carb update?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Erica. Actually, my main update is that I was hoping to introduce a Carb employee to the group, Jennifer Magana. She's on this call. Jennifer has been working with us in the Office of Community Air Protection for 2 years, mainly with the Sacramento community, but actually the last year she has been put on COVID contract tracing for the city of Berkeley. And unfortunately she was doing a great job and she kept getting promoted and held on there, but she's back with us and she's going to start helping us out with Fresno. So she was going to kind of shadow me going on into the future until she kind of gets to know the community and the steering committee members. And hopefully once she's all dialed in, she'll be phasing in and being the main contact for the community. So if it's all right with the steering committee members and everyone here, Jennifer is going to kind of hang out and attend a lot of the meetings and get to know you all. So yeah, Jennifer, if you want to say hi real quick to the group. I know you've met some of them already. Jennifer is also bilingual in English and Spanish and has helped us out a ton with all the translation interpretation stuff throughout the program. So we're super lucky to have her back with us.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, I look forward to getting to know all of you on a much closer level. And like Brian said, I've been working with Sacramento for some time. So if you have any questions regarding similarities, differences, or anything of the sorts, feel free to reach out to me as well. And I also speak Spanish. So anybody has any questions, I'm here to help.
Cool. And Erica, that's our main update as far as Carb's concerned. We have some upcoming events in the future, but the notices haven't been put out. So I think they'll be better saved for the next meeting. Yeah.
Fantastic. And then I think the consultation group meeting, I think, is late this week. It's tomorrow.
Actually, there's
That's the only one that I think has been put out to the group, that just as a reminder.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that reminder, it's at, I can give you the time real quick for tomorrow. It is starting at 1 to around 4 o'clock. And if anybody needs a link, I can also put that in the chat as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian, and welcome, Jennifer. All right. Any questions or comments for Carb? All right. We will continue on, and our next update is actually on school air filtration. I think it's Aaron Tarango.
I think there was a question linger from last meeting about school filtration. They got all this COVID money with the state of the federal government to spend in school districts, which is like way beyond what our program do. So we're kind of taking to the side here, let them do that. But I think the question was are they going to attack or go after the bungalows as we call them, or the portable? And the answer, as far as we found out, is yes. It's going to be every classroom they can do to make sure that the equipment's put in every place students would be. So that's the update I have for that. That was questions linger, I think, last meeting as far as that goes. But that they're running through that program now, and I think the other question was, can we use our money to pay for some of the extra filters? And the answer to that was yes. But we have to decide find out what they put in, and then go as far as that goes, find out what they put in there and see how we can help towards the end once you're done updating your system. So maybe I'll skip one down to the Well, sorry, go ahead. I was going to talk about vegetarian berries, but I'll move it over to community air monitoring. So I think that might be Brad Dawson.
Yeah, is anybody have questions about the air monitor or the air filtration before we move over to air monitoring?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, yeah,
I do have a question.
Please. Okay.
Yeah, this is Venice Curry. It was my question from last time about the covering the portables. And so did you say that they would all be covered?
As far as we found out from the schools, yes, the idea was to either put portable filtration systems in those classrooms or actually update the actual systems on the portable classroom itself and how they're set up. But yeah, that's the answer we got.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Curry. And if I'm not sure where everyone is when they talk, sometimes the Zoom doesn't automatically update on who's talking. So I have to scroll screens to see whose name. So if I happen to say the wrong name, I do apologize. It's typically because I have to scroll through all the little boxes to find who's speaking at the time. So thanks, Dr. Curry. I think I called you Lisa, but it's good to hear from you as well. All right, our next agenda item is community air monitoring, and I think we have I thought John maybe, but you said there might be somebody else from the team that's going to update tonight. Who's going to update on community air monitoring tonight?
Good evening. It would be me. My name is Brad Dawson. I'm the supervisor for the air monitoring program. And
hey, Brad.
Hey, hi, and good evening, everyone. For those who have a keen eye and see our weekly monitoring updates, you may have seen our newest addition to the monitoring network. Last week, with the assistance of Fresno Unified School District, we deployed the final pending air monitor to Edison High School. That was back on Tuesday, August 3rd. So with that latest addition, that is posting its readings live on the community's monitoring webpage. So that kind of concludes the list of all the sites that we wanted to put monitors at. We are still continuing to do van monitoring in the selected areas that the community, that this steering committee suggested. And just wanted to send out a reminder as well that we did update our webpage to include benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, xylenes, those BTEX compounds, NO2, SO2s, and CO. So we've been updating those values so you can see all that information live in real time on your webpage.
Great, thank you, Brad. What questions do we have or comments do we have about this? Or it looks like someone was trying to speak that wasn't Brad. Maybe Ryan?
Oh, no, I was going to ask Brad. I think it's always helpful. Maybe you could just bring it up and share screen and show everyone.
Oh, a picture of it?
Or just, yeah, kind of direct them to where they can go to get that information.
Oh, yes, it's on the Fresno community's webpage. Let me pull that up. Do I have ability to share the screen?
You do, yes.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much. Let me click on the share.
I mean, I do see your hand.
Sorry, I hope everyone can see my screen, but this is the South Central Fresno Community Air Monitoring page. So if you scroll down on the side right here, we list all the different air monitors here, as well as up on this bar. So you can now click on Edison High School. It should populate the current readings from today, and then you can also backdate this. So if you want to go back to the 3rd when we actually deployed it, you'll see only half the data is there because that's when we actually were able to get it on and calibrated it up online. So if you have any problems with this, let us know. We have been dealing with some issues with different browsers not accepting this. So if you have a hard time seeing it, make sure you change your browser or maybe use your cell phone and see maybe that you can get that data that way. And if you do have problems, let us know so we can make sure we fix it.
Thank you so much, Brad. Can you put that link in the chat too for anyone that wants to click on that and have that at their disposal?
Absolutely.
Awesome, thank you. And then Naimeen had her hand up. Thanks for your patience, Naimeen.
There we are.
Sure, no problem. Thank you. So I have a couple of questions, and some are very repetitive. Comes from a year ago. So what's the update? Incorporating the data from these monitors into the data that is used so that we can receive the RAN alerts. We just spent 40 minutes talking about wildfires and how much they're impacting us. But if we have all this data, all these more monitors capturing that data, but it's not getting to the people that need to use it, I think we have just done half of the work. So that's one thing. But I understand what you had reported in the past, that it's taking more time for whatever reason. But the other thing that I'm thinking of is like other strategies in the meantime to communicate these issues to the more important, population. For example, you already have this monitor in Edison. You have already this monitor in Roosevelt. Have you made an effort to ensure that not only school district knows about it, but that the principals, that people in the schools, that sports coaches, that people that can use this information and use it wisely to protect the health of these children know about it, know how to access it, and know how to act on it. So I think that if that has not been done, I think that's the next immediate step to protect the health of these children using this data, while we are able to get everything through the RAN. And I think that at some point it will be important to have some sort of intensive effort to help parents from all these schools, or just the AB 617 in general, to enroll into the RAN, receiving text alerts and other ways so that they can receive the information.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we are working on trying to integrate this into RAN. That's been, like you said, it's been something that we've been continuously working on. It's a lot of the side of how the communication all works is on the back end, and we're still working through that. But yes, you're right, we are working on that as well. It's just not done yet. And then also on the outreach, we do work with the schools, especially the science departments. We try to give some of the material back to the school, so that way they can actually incorporate some of the things that are going on at their school into their learning curriculum. But I know Jamie in our outreach and communication department has better access to some of those other things, so we can definitely push forward on all sides.
Okay, thank you for that. Any more questions about that for Brad, specifically talking about community air monitoring? Okay, well, thank you, Brad. And we will do our last update, which is actually on the new land use subcommittee. And actually, Naimeen, I think they had you queued up to give a little bit of an update on the recap from the meeting for this week. Were you prepared to do that, and are you able to?
Sure, it's going to be short and sweet. And of course, there were other CSC members that attended the meeting. Obviously, if I miss anything, please chime in. Lisa, Ivanka, Kim. So there was a meeting, when was it, yesterday? And basically the idea is that the Air District and the city have been putting together a letter that will, they're calling it a letter. We were asking for an MOU, whatever we want to call it. It's just a written document that will describe the processes that they are putting in place to improve that communication and the coordination of between the city and the Air District. The idea was to have already that letter sent to the city manager for the signature, and we were like, no, not yet. We haven't seen the letter. Not the subcommittee, not the full committee. So we recommended that we don't do that, that they present to us the letter, then we are able to share it with the full steering committee, and then, continue with the process. So that's in a summarized way what we discussed. But again, Lisa, Ivanka, Kim, if you can think of any other details that are worth mentioning.
Yeah, I'll just jump in. The one piece that we just want the whole steering committee to understand is that we've waited a long time to get to this point where we're having a discussion of that, what Naomi just described, a discussion of what processes will be able to be used between the Air District and the city. And we just feel like the discussion must actually take place before, with this steering committee, or those of you that are interested in being on the subcommittee, and we bring it back to the main committee. But an actual discussion, not just between the Air District and the city leaders of what they think needs to be in this MOU, which is what was about to happen yesterday. So we want there to be a space of a discussion, not just this is what the Air District and this is what the city thinks they can do, without listening to the main concerns from this community, of the community members, of what are the concerns that are being missed in that connection between the city and the Air District. So like Naomi says, that information, that letter will be presented back to the steering committee. And at that point, we can discuss it further.
Hi,
Thank
it's
you,
Lisa.
Ivanka and Naomi. Oh.
Hi, it's Lisa. My major concern was I attended the last planning commission, and they were discussing, you know, they're changing the format of their EIR to a program. I call them programmatic, but they're a program EIR, which basically isn't going to be the best for Southwest Fresno. It's just, it's just no. As far as community outreach and also mitigation measures and who does what and follows through with mitigation. And yeah, it's going to be passing the buck. It's very important that we really keep an eye on land use issues, especially land use policies, and how they are trying to change the general plan and how it will affect the communities in the footprint, because they seem to want to do a lot of streamlining. Their public outreach isn't going to be the best. And when I look at mitigation elements and enforcements, puts a lot of onus on departments and agencies that may not have the funding to actually go out and make sure that the mitigation is done. So there is a lot of capability of causing negative environmental impacts to communities that should never be impacted. So, you know, I think that the other thing that was also of great concern to me was that the land use committee, we've been asking for this for over a year, and why wait so long while the city is going on a parallel track of making all these changes and not really taking into account how is this going to affect half the footprint of Fresno under AB 617, you know, and they're not taking that into any consideration. And also the other thing I mentioned was, how come they did not come to us as a committee and do a presentation and do a workshop on this and get our input and get our concerns, which tells me they're not being good stewards. I mean, because we are a community of interest, and they didn't reach out to us, which I find offensive. So that's just me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And Janet, my apologies. She was also at the meeting yesterday, and I see her hand raised.
Yeah, I was going to ask if she had a recap or a question. Hi, Janet.
Hi, a lot of it's just comment, because I think part of the process on the land use is understanding the CEQA process, California Environmental Quality Act process, and how it all works. And I think it would be good to sometimes re-go through that so everyone understands that process, that the city has to follow, city, county, whichever agency that has to do that, and understand that some of those are just recommendations to the next level up that makes the decision. So I think part of that is the understanding how it works, so that we can be at those meetings, so that we can insert ourselves in a way that's the framework is there under CEQA for us to make it work. So
Thanks
no
for that
questions,
feedback,
just
Janet.
comments.
No, thank you for that. No, and that makes a lot of sense. Brian Moore.
Oh, Janet, just to respond to that, we've actually been getting some inquiries from other members of AB 617 communities about, kind of like a SQL 101 or SQL training. So at the state level, we've been reaching out to the air districts and also other state agencies about putting something together like that. So if there is interest in Fresno as well, like as we start trying to figure out how that's going to work, yeah, I'll email everybody through the air district, and they're great with sharing my emails, and we can get everyone that wants to be involved in that.
Great, good timing.
Hi,
too.
Brian. This is Lisa. Excuse me, Brian. This
hey,
is
Lisa.
Lisa Flores, retired environmental planner. You might want to reach out to Caltrans because they actually had short courses in NEPA and CEQA that were very understandable. So you don't have to start from scratch.
Oh, awesome.
You can just update.
Do you have any, well, we could talk later, Lisa, maybe I'll email you if you have any specific contacts at Caltrans that that are still there that do this stuff. But I can reach out to my other contacts as well. So thank you.
I would say Caltrans headquarters, actually. And no, I don't, because I think they all retired.
Got it.
I'm so
Lisa.
old. Bye.
This is Janet. FYI, the city and the county both also have a rundown version of SQL 101. I do have contacts, so I may be able to help you out as well.
Excellent. So thank you, Janet and Lisa and Ivanka and Naimeen for the summary on the first, I think, land use committee meeting. So that's definitely progress and a really robust update. I do see a hand from Greg Barfield. Go ahead, Greg, and then we'll take any questions from the committee. Hey, Greg.
Hey, everyone. I just want to say thank you for the group that in the meeting yesterday. I'm sorry that seemed like we were being, I was being an obstacle or just behind, but we will get this taken care of. So I appreciate you guys all for sticking with us. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Greg. Any questions from the committee about the subcommittee that was just, that took place yesterday? All right, so there's more to be had there, and it sounds like a lot of interest in seeing that letter that's going to come out, and then obviously additional conversations and subcommittee meetings will take place to align with what the committee has identified as its key priorities for not only the MOU, but for other land use topics, whether it's, certainly ones that tie to your SERP and implementation of that SERP and the coordination of those activities and making sure that they don't conflict. All right, any other questions about subcommittee updates for the 4 that we've already heard before we move into the scheduled meetings that are coming up? I don't see any. So for your calendaring pleasure, there are a few upcoming subcommittee meetings that are coming up that have yet to be scheduled. One is scheduled. Vegetative barriers is actually set for August 24th at 4 p.m. And somebody mentioned they wanted, it might have been Aaron, that he wanted to reference that. But then there's also, I think, a pending truck reroute subcommittee that's in the works. So you should keep an eye out on your emails from the Air District and from city partners as they work to schedule that meeting as soon as possible. And then there are others as they become available from a scheduling standpoint, and as the timelines make sense, critical junctures, you will get meeting notices and emails soliciting your preferences on dates and times for some of those key meetings. Was there something related to vegetative barriers that wanted to be touched base on? I don't want to move off of this until then. Yeah.
There has not been since July another meeting, so that's why we didn't have like a full report, but I just want to bring to the attention of everyone that per the agreement that was reached in the last meeting in July, CSC recommended some moving around of funding, and that is coming up to the Air District Board meeting, actually next week on their August 19th meeting. Jessica also confirmed this morning to me that the agenda will be posted tomorrow and that's an agenda item. So anyone that would like to, I guess, make comments or say anything in support of this recommendation, that's the opportunity to do it, because that's going to happen before our next subcommittee meeting. Is that right, Brian, that we can comment and make public comments on this?
Yes, so all members of the public, including obviously the community steering committee members, can provide comment. Yes, and I can confirm yet that is on the agenda, like Jessica said.
Great, thank you for that update.
So just on that real quick, I just obviously want to thank everybody that's been a part of those subcommittees as well as the entire committee and working on that those changes and recommendations to us, and we definitely appreciate all the input.
Perfect, thank you. All right, not seeing any, oh, I do see Scott Mosier's hand, see Fresno. Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Thanks for briefly mentioning the truck rerouting subcommittee. And we're glad to share, consistent with the subcommittee consensus and then the overall steering committee approval, the RFP for the consultant services. It's out on the street. That is due September 1st, coming back. And then also, it definitely feels like the UC Merced team for the health study would be ready to meet with our subcommittee. Appreciate everyone's work on that. And I think I anticipate the Air District staff would be ready to send out a doodle poll and see if we can get our subcommittee back to meet with the UC Merced team to talk scope and everything coming up on the health study. So we're looking forward to that, and I'm sure Air District will be following up with subcommittee members.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions about any of those items before we move into the wrap up and other updates? Not seeing any. We'll thank everybody for that input, and we'll continue on. So as we move into wrap up, there are a couple important updates and reminders. And as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we want to give co-hosts, the opportunity to add more of their own personal touches and structure and approach to each meeting, but that we didn't have a co-host for this meeting. So we are looking for a community co-host volunteer for the next meeting. So if you do sign up, we will work with you in advance to create an agenda and an approach that really structures along whatever you're comfortable with, right? So if you want to play a heavy-handed role in the meeting, you absolutely can. If you'd like to be a little bit more behind the scenes, that's great too. Any level of comfort, we are happy to work with you. And if you'd like to sign up, please raise your blue hand or your Zoom hand, whatever color it is, and put your name in the chat, and we'll add you to the queue for future meetings. Even if it's not the next one, you can say when your availability allows. We do also understand that not everyone can attend those agenda setting meetings that we have talked so much about. And those are the meetings that help frame the agendas that we discuss in each CSC meeting. So we wanted to take a few moments during this wrap up today to talk about with the full committee, if there's any specific topics that you want added to a future agenda, now's a great time to just drop that information in the chat or raise your hand so that we can make a note of it. In the event that you're not able to attend that additional meeting, we'd love to make sure we still get your feedback and get your input on those. So if there is a topic you want to see on a future agenda, please do drop it in the chat now or raise your hand now, and we'll make sure to add it to our running list of things that get covered over the course of our CSC agendas. Naimeen, I see your hand.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed it. Was there already a report of the prioritization that we did about strategies at the, some months ago, and when are we going to see it? Because I think that that's going to determine, not that we're done with the strategies that we're implementing right now, but I think that, it will be good to start already putting the next ones on the pipeline, so we start thinking of, how do we need other subcommittees, or how do we structure ourselves to work on those?
I will check in with the Air District team on that. I don't know that we've talked, we've talked about CERT prioritization quite a lot over the last few months, but have we had a formal discussion about the tracker and those prioritizations? I know Jess isn't on the line today, but I'll look at Ryan and Jamie and Zong and see if you guys have in your records if you covered all of it.
Well, I know we had several meetings and that we had this, and then a separate meeting in addition to that. And I want to say we emailed out the results from that, but I will double check and confirm that. And I agree. I think the more that we can talk about what we're looking to prioritize on the future. That's exactly the purpose of these meetings. That's what we want to do.
And probably that, so what I'm saying or suggesting is that if we can get, even if it was shared before, if we can get another time the summary of those, you know, those discussions and the survey that we all did, and that can, you know, be part of that discussion for our next meeting.
Yeah.
You know, kind of discussing, because you know, even if I receive it, we have not had the floor to really discuss it as a group.
Nope, that's a good.
I know that in our, Jessica and I, when we had our last agenda setting call, we did pull that up. So that was part of kind of what guided us as a reminder. But I think it is good for the whole steering committee to just keep it in the forefront as well. But for those of you who can't or weren't able to join the agenda setting call, the last one around, that was kind of the guiding piece, like to help us stay on track of what else needs to be discussed on the agenda. And the fire, because of fire season, school starting, that was really what helped us guide why we needed to put so much emphasis on where those measures are regarding all things fire and smoke on this meeting. So I think that is one thing we should constantly do in the agenda setting call, is always have that ready. And we did at the last one, so.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much, Ivanka, for sharing that. And what we can do is we can get that sent out to the steering committee, and we'll, you know, please everybody review it. And at the agenda setting meeting next week, as you're looking it over, if there's things that you feel need to be discussed at the next meeting, you know, please bring those ideas. Appreciate it.
Excellent, thank you. If there's any other topics, we would love to see those in the chat at any time as we continue through the agenda tonight. We just want to make sure that we are being honoring, you know, through the schedule. Some of you have that availability during the day. Some of you have only availability for these CSC meetings, and we appreciate all of the time and energy that you put into these meetings, but acknowledge that sometimes you can't be in every meeting and you want to know what's happening and want to weigh in. Please feel free to do that. And thank you, Kevin. I see that you volunteered to be a community co-host. We love that and we appreciate it. Round of applause for Kevin. And for everyone that has been a community co-host so far, thank you for your participation and your support and your engagement in this meeting. It's always great to have a community co-lead for these conversations. All right, I don't think there's anything else on this specific topic, and I don't see any other hands. And so what I will do then is show you a summary of the notes from tonight's meeting. If you recall, we have always, for the last few months, really tried to collect all the content and the insights that you've given through the meeting and make sure that there's a real-time view of what the action items are for the committee. So I'm going to share my screen, and you can see the notes that we've been taking real time. I always ask that you give me grace on any typos or formatting things. And the intent in sharing this is to not only hold ourselves accountable, but also to make sure that we don't leave anything off, right? And that we are kind of honoring the spirit of the meetings and being productive in the ways that are valuable to the CSC. And so if I'm looking at this in order, we've got first things first is get the word out about this, these wonderful programs that the Air District has that are supported and for residents in particular, but the Born Cleaner program and the Instant Rebate There. There are opportunities for the Air District to work with the CSC to get information out to some of the populations that you all serve and that you represent and that you're part of. And so we definitely want that insight to be shared. Please reach out to Naimeen about any mask giveaways for unhoused populations and farm workers. Let me change that now to tackle the smoke impacts that we had that conversation about. So if there is interest in working with her group on some of those distribution projects and other specific programs for those vulnerable populations, and we would appreciate it. Check with Carb on the funding eligibility for grant programs that would provide materials and funding for additional residential support. That's to mitigate air quality. That's something the Air District is going to work with the Carb on and then report back to the CSC on. And certainly there's the possibility that there are funding streams available to help with additional, potentially rebates or additional materials, specifically fans and other filters to help residents. Please reach out to Kevin Hamilton for information about programs related to and for people who suffer from asthma. There are a lot of things happening with his organization right now. His information was in the chat, his phone number is in the chat. and specifically, reach out soon because so much is taking place in the air quality area, specifically for those with asthma right now, and he does want you to be able to take advantage of those. Email the CSC in the Air District if you are interested in participating in CEQA training for CSC members across the state. Carb may be doing this, and I actually will say the CSC should do the reaching out, and Carb in the Air District are in the process of Carb specifically is in the process of exploring if that's something that can be done. There were a number of people on the line that have some potential resources, maybe for Carb, around existing training programs for CEQA and NEPA that might be useful for this process, but I think they're still trying to gauge who's interested in participating. So if you think that would be of interest to you, it's a good time to reach out to Carb or to the Air District to make sure they know you're interested in that. Please attend the Air District Board meeting next week to comment on the vegetative barriers funding and the recommendations that were approved in the July Fresno meeting around that funding swap and some recommendations for vegetative barriers. It's always great to provide supportive comments during board meetings. So if you have the time and are able, that board meeting is next week. Some of the agenda topic suggestions, we got one so far, and it's the prioritization of the CERT measures, just making sure that stays top of mind in the cycle of our conversations on the agenda. So bringing that back up and certainly acknowledging that it has come up in the agenda setting meetings prior to this one, but just bringing it back to the forefront. And along those lines, the Air District's going to actually resend that CERT prioritization information to all of the CSC members. So it's back at the top of your inboxes, back in your memory boxes, which, after so many weeks and months, you may not remember everything in that survey and those results. So those are going to get resent to from the Air District to the CSC, just so it's top of mind. And they're going to do that before the agenda setting meeting next week, and definitely before the next board meeting, so that there is an opportunity for you to really have that kind of really fresh in your brains and ready to think about. So I want to acknowledge that there's some stuff in the chat. It doesn't look like there's too much related to these, but if there's anything that needs to be adjusted, now's a great time. Raise your hand and tell me if I need to change something or add something. Naomi.
I don't know if they, but I would like to see that added. My comment about what more targeted efforts the Air District can do to disseminate the information about air monitors that they have in the schools, like Edison, Roosevelt, Malaga. So starting with the parents of the, whose kids attend those schools, but all the other schools as well. So maybe they can come back with the specific,
And this is because it's not the RAN data is not synced up. Okay, I do remember that comment. Okay, absolutely. I will put that here. And then you say ASAP. And that might go to a committee and that might go to the board, to the full CSC. Thanks for that. Are there any other things that need to be adjusted, added, tweaked a little bit to make sure that we're accurately reflecting the conversation and the action items that need to be done and tracked?
Do we need to add the recommendation that the land committee made of reviewing the letter and then bringing it back to the full committee?
We don't have to, but we can. Yeah, I mean, that was basically your report for your committee. So I think that's happening regardless. I'm happy to drop it in here and just acknowledge that the committee did have, the land use committee will review the letter from the city and the Air District before it's final and signed. Fantastic. Thanks for that. All right. Seeing no additional notes about those things, we'll call those pretty close to final, and those will get shared as they do with the Air District and are in the record for the follow-up with each meeting. And then I'm looking in the chat, and it looks like we've got Kevin's information in there, and Kevin has volunteered to be the co-host. We've already said thank you for that, so we are up to speed there. Perfect. All right, Naomi, you said that you had a comment or an update for the CSC, and I wanted to give you that opportunity now.
Yeah, it's an announcement. This was shared already. by the Air District, but just to put it on top of your inboxes and also as a reminder. Please save the date. There's going to be a convening that all of us are invited to attend. It's a 2-day convening, virtual convening through Zoom, unfortunately due to COVID. It's going to be September 27th and September 29th from 5 to 8 p.m. And there's going to be a lot of roundtables and panels that will be discussing the past, the present, and the future for AB 617. So we have confirmed Assemblymember Cristina Garcia, who's one of the co-authors of this bill, to be giving the opening remarks. There's a lot of participation from Carb, Air Districts, community members. So, but before, next week, you're going to receive the formal invitation to register. There's going to be interpretation available. But one thing that we are asking all of you to please help us with, I'm going to drop on the chat 2 links. One is in English and the other one is in Spanish. So we would like for you to help us answer that survey. It's a short survey. And basically, we want just, it's a survey for all AB 617 participants, and it's intended to highlight the successes, challenges, and opportunities for improvement in the implementation of this policy. So we all have been active participants, and I think we could definitely give a lot of feedback. We have received 70 responses so far, and our goal is to have 100. And this has been distributed to all the AB 617 communities across the state. So please don't be shy. The link is in English and Spanish. So I'll drop it here, and please respond and also register for the convening.
Thank you so much, Naimeen. And I did see, Brian, your hand up, but it looks like it's down again. Are you good?
Naimeen covered everything I was going to mention about the convening better than I was going to. So that's awesome. So yeah, we'll make sure to remind everybody again. And yeah, Naimeen, thanks for redistributing the survey links. That's super helpful.
Excellent. And the Air District will send out information about that 2-day convening, I think, to the CSC. So it sounds like look for that in your inboxes, and you'll be able to participate in both if you can attend the meeting, but you can regardless fill out information related to the survey. Wonderful. All right. Well, now is the time in our meeting when we check for public comments. So if there are any public members that would like to comment via Zoom or YouTube or Facebook, now's the time to do so. So if you are on Zoom, please press *9 to raise your hand or to unmute yourself. And if you are on any of those other social media channels, you may also put in a comment on those social media channels or email the Air District, and we will read those comments as appropriate on the live screen. Are there any public comments from the Zoom line at the moment? All right, well, seeing none, I will ask if there are any comments that are coming in through email or through the social media channels.
Erica, we do have 4 comments/questions from Laura on YouTube. I dropped them in the chat box for you.
Please do. Thank you. I don't see them yet, but let's see. Oh, wait, here we have. Laura asked, and you can see this in the chat, what's the link for the consultation meeting? And it looks like that, I think, was in the chat, but we will add it again if you wouldn't mind, Brian, just so that it's back up on the website or in the chat in case they joined late.
Oh, sure. We actually, I emailed Laura, and I think we posted it to the YouTube comment too. So I think she has it. Yeah.
Excellent. Could we do a health survey of the kids at the schools is a question. What do you need help with is another question. And conference call number for next week's agenda setting call. So those are some very specific questions for Laura. I think 2 of them, the first and the last one, we can send her directly. And then the question broadly for this committee is, could we do a health survey of the kids at the school? I know that we are in the process of considering a health survey as it relates to the truck reroute committee and with UC Merced. But certainly if anyone can open and answer that question, please feel free. And then generally, I think she's asking, what do you need help with as a CSC? And this is a public member offering to assist. Any thoughts or comments?
I also want to mention that as part of an interdisciplinary project between UC Merced, UC Davis, and CCJN, we will be conducting a survey in September, both in Fresno and chapter, and regarding the perceptions of air quality and health impacts. So all of you are going to receive that and are, welcome to participate, but it includes some health questions. It's not completely focused only on health, but it has some questions related to that.
Excellent. Thank you, Naimeen. If there's any other answers to that question, please do raise your hand now. Otherwise, we will direct those answers to a written form. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for the questions, Laura. And I will make sure that those are included certainly in the chat log so that we can reply to Laura with questions there. Do we have any other updates from, or comments or updates or questions from the committee at this time? Ryan.
Yeah. Good evening. Just prior to the start of tonight's meeting, all the CSC members should have received an email from us in regards to a process that we're going to be undertaking along with the Community Steering Committee members on selection of facilitation services. And so this, as you may have guessed, Institute for Local Government will be stepping down as facilitators for the AB 617 process in the San Joaquin Valley. And I just want to share the district's appreciation. They've definitely been a part of the Community Steering Committee family, and we've really enjoyed working with them and partnering with them and all of you in all this important work, and really can't thank them enough for those efforts. But as we transition, we're trying to get the Community Steering Committee involved in the process for the selection of the new facilitator. And so in the email, there's a link for steering committee members to provide questions that they would like to hear from the possible candidates, as well as just some general information about what those facilitators, their background, their history, their experiences. And so we encourage everybody to take a look at that and provide questions that you'd like to hear responses from those that are interested in this process. And so we look forward to getting all of your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for those words. And it is, this may not be our last meeting. It might be September, but certainly it has been our honor to work with you all. And we are so eager for this transition to be a smooth one. And we are committed to making sure that, the handoff is easy and seamless, certainly from your purposes. And, it's been our pleasure to work with you. And we're so committed to the work that you are doing. We will definitely be around, certainly in this space, and making sure that if we see you, please do say hello. Hi, Kevin. See your hand.
Hi. So Ryan, I think it would be good to maybe ask for a few volunteers from the different steering committees to join and say a Zoom interview of your finalists for this facilitation job.
So yeah, that's
just a great suggestion.
Point. I should have mentioned that, Kevin. All steering committee members are interested in observing are welcome and are invited to that.
So I was thinking more of an active role of being able to ask questions if during the interviews, if that's possible, rather than just observing. Would that be possible?
Well, part of the reason why we took this approach was because we're looking for 3 steering or 4 steering committees. And so if we try to find a way to be able to have people be able to ask the questions, but understanding there are some limitations with Zoom and time limitations. This was a kind of an alternative that we talked with several of the people that had shown interest in participating in the process and got their feedback from this, and thought that this was a good path forward.
Yeah, it just seems that, either that or do a presentation for each of the committees, since they all meet within a couple of weeks at the beginning of the month. They could always do a short presentation to the committee, maybe 5-10 minutes on why they should be chosen. Just a thought. It actually wasn't what I was wanting to comment originally on, that I had forgotten earlier and shouldn't have, though, just to completely change directions. I did, when we were talking about community monitoring earlier, and you mentioned, Jamie, thank you for plugging sjbair.com, and you can even type in .org, by the way, and it'll still get you there, or .net, it'll get you to the same website. I did want to thank the Air District monitoring team, who has been really integral in our being able to put that site up and keep it running, and for you guys working with us to co-locate some of our Purple Air monitors, and you even went out and bought us 20. So I don't like to let that kind of thing go unrecognized when it happens, because it hasn't always been our history. So thank you very much, monitoring team. You guys have been great. So thanks on behalf of CCAC and the SJB-EJ Collaborative.
Excellent. Any other final comments before we wrap up? All right. I think we'll just put up the reminder that our next CSC meeting is going to be Wednesday, September 8th at 5:30. And again, we have Kevin that has volunteered to be the community co-host for that meeting, but we're always accepting additionals for the future meetings. So feel free to reach out again and let the Air District know if you are open to doing that in the future. And I think with that, we are ready to adjourn unless there are additional comments from the Air District or anyone on the committee. Great. Well, with that, have a fantastic night, and we will see you next month. This meeting's adjourned.
5 minutes to spare.